Giddish, welcome inside the Crazy Ant Farm. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Oh, living the dream, truly. We are so excited to be able to talk to you. You have no idea. We have such a huge Law and Order fan base on our listeners, and they are going to be so extremely pumped that you're on the show. I'm included in one of those. I'm like, long term since the thing kicked off in the 90s. I'm just like, this is so exciting, so exciting.
Well, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. We have so much to talk to you about because the character of Amanda Rollins is just the path that she went on over the decade plus on that show is just unreal. One of Law and Order's best characters, in my opinion, and I'll say, just in my own opinion, probably one of the best characters on television in general over the past 30 years.
I certainly appreciate that.
It's sincerest because, like I said, the path that you went on, it deals with so many things, abuse and a drug addiction and mental health and dealing with loss and learning how to deal with relationships and letting people in. And that path that she it was unreal.
It was certainly fun to play. And I always liked playing the valleys, just as much as the hills. So I was always so lucky that they would throw me a bone and let my character go through things and fight her way back.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's just jump right in from the very beginning, right? Because this is a show that had already been on for a decade, more than a decade, and you're coming into a season where one of the main characters is just out. And, people are kind of like, what do you mean Stabler's gone? What's going on here? And then here's these two new people, and you're like, oh. So talk about that and what it was like to just come into that type of a situation.
Well, so it was me and Danny Pino that came in the 13th season, and they kind of cleaned house, like the crew, the showrunner, everyone, including Chris Maloney when he decided to leave. So they kind of just cleaned house, replaced everybody. And I got a call saying, hey, would you be interested in, Chris Maloney's leaving. Would you be interested in being on Law and Order SVU? I'm like, sure, I'd be interested, and I got to go out and test for it and talk about the role. And the funny thing is, people always ask me like, oh, don't you feel the pressure? Maloney left and you're here to fill his shoes. And I'm like, no, that's that guy's job. Because I was there with Danny Pino, and he had been on network television. So he knew the boards and he knew, I mean, Danny Pino is just one of the best people alive anyway, but he just knew how to handle the pressure and how we both were just excited to be there and excited to breathe whatever fresh life we could into the show. I had no idea, of course, that I would be on it 12 years. I thought I was signing on for 2 or 3 at the most.
Right.
But I was living in LA at the time. I'd just been on a show called Chase. It was a Bruckheimer show, and that ended after 1 season. So I was like, okay, I'll move back to New York. I always loved living here and being here and the energy and then being on a Wolf show that films in New York on location it's thrilling. And all the places that I've gotten to go, all the locations, it's so absurdly awesome. It's just like all the characters you meet, all the places you see. And it's not like Sex in the City where we're like, drinking martinis
right.
in awesome places. But you do get to see the real city. And that was always a big benefit for me.
Oh, most definitely. And this podcast is for the up-and-comers trying to break into it. So everybody wants to hear about, your experiences. We get a lot of recurring roles on the show, but you are the first that have such a big part in a huge TV show. So what was it like, becoming this character and then finding out who she was? Towards the end, did it just feel kind of like the back of your hand? Did you feel like you knew this person personally?
Yeah. I mean, that's one great thing that I love about doing a project like this, a TV show. You go and this character, you have lengthy discussions about it. You ask questions, you talk to your showrunner, you talk to writers, you talk to the other characters, and you work things out where, if you're doing a scene, then you kind of get it so that it's written so that you're like, okay, I'm really passionate about this. I connect with it now.
Right.
And so that was always the case. It was always a dialogue, especially with Warren Leight and Michael Chernuchin. We had and Rick Eade came in to showrun. So it was always like that. And then David Graziano there at the end. I thought he wrote a beautiful denouement for Rollins.
For sure.
And it was such a beautiful last season. But yes, it was like doing like the back of my hand. But even when you fucked up, a scene, you had the chance to come back and make it great the next day. Like a different scene, but it's not like a film where you go and it's 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks and then it's done. Like
right.
It's on film. You better be happy with your work. Like playing a character like this for 10 months out of the year. I mean, it's a grueling schedule, but you get a chance to get in there. And like I said, if you mess up, you get a chance to fix it, to go, okay, I sucked in that scene.
Yeah.
Like tomorrow I have a really awesome scene that I'm not going to suck in.
Well, so much to unpack there, because one, coming in, right, and you get to be part of that. I love that you said, oh, you talk to this person and you work with this person and you talk to that person. So clearly you had a lot of say in the development of the character and what you thought about the backstory and different things like that. But coming into a show like that, where you, as you mentioned before, there's already the pressure, right? It's a primetime show. It's a huge hit. It's been on for this long, kind of a thing. But the fan base is rabid. I mean, they're just so huge and so into the show. So I got to imagine that pressure on, like, man, if they don't like your character, you're in trouble. But on the flip side of that, if they love your character, if they connect with it, then the sky's the limit, right? They're like, oh, we're all in on Rollins, right? So talk about that a little bit. And how were they when you first came on cast-wise? Because, so it's a machine at that point, over a decade in. It's a well-oiled machine. They're all family. They're all knowing kind of, and then in come the new people. Were they very welcoming to you? Were they very like, come on in? And I should say, for anybody who doesn't know, you kind of had a little experience because you were on SVU prior to Rollins, right? In season 8, you had a little appearance as someone else. And so you kind of knew a little sneak peek into the world of it before you got in there, right?
Right. I'd been on SVU as a survivor of assault.
Right.
And also on Criminal Intent, I played like a baddie.
Yeah.
A bad guy.
Yeah.
So, and both experiences were awesome, and you have to go in there and you have to know your shit and be prepared, especially as a guest star,
right?
Like, because they carry the show, emotionally, and like you have to. I'm very, very happy I got that experience before becoming a regular, because it's a lot, to come on SVU and like all these regulars are there. Like all of my scenes were with Ice-T,
right?
And just to be like, I have this, and this is how I'm going to do it, and then they get all excited because just like I would as a regular, you're like, oh, good. Like they got it. They're bringing it,
right.
And they're not nervous and they're not, like they're just here and they understand the character and they understand the stakes and they're just going for it. So I was happy to be that as a guest star. I think I did pretty good.
Yeah.
But then to come in, everyone, the fans were so heartbroken that Maloney left.
Oh,
and I
for
gave
sure.
that to him, like I wasn't going to try and fight that, but I also knew I was not trying to step in his shoes,
right?
Like at all. I wasn't trying to be Mariska's partner. I wasn't trying to, I was just really excited because I had such a good relationship with Warren Light,
right?
Who came in to showrun on season 13 as well. I'd known him since I met him when I was 18.
Oh wow!
So he's the person I know longest. And for your listeners, like the landscape is so different now. But back then, like I would do things during the summer, like a playwriting conference in New Harmony, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to meet all these fancy New York writers. They would come to the middle of Nowheresville in Indiana, and so that's where I met Warren Light. And I would always tell my parents, I'm like, I'm sowing seeds here. I don't know exactly when I will reap what I'm sowing, but I hope that I will. And I'm meeting good people, and even though I'm not getting paid, I'm planting the seeds in hopefully fertile ground. And that was the case. Warren Light called me a decade later and said, hey, there's this role for you, and here's what I'm thinking. And then towards this last season, when it was announced that this would be my last season, the fan response was astounding.
Yeah.
And they made me feel so good and so loved and so protected. And so, it was, I couldn't have asked for anything more. I was surprised, and it really, really touched me.
I mean, heartbroken. Everybody was heartbroken. Because you're a very endearing character. Amanda is very endearing, and everybody felt like, and I'm speaking as a fan now, you rode that ride with her. You went through all that with her.
And she annoyed you at points, right? She was like, you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, right. For sure, totally. That? Like, is she making another stupid ass mistake? What is she doing? Right? Yeah.
Right. It wasn't sugary sweet the whole time. Like, oh, she's just awesome. I just love everything she does. It was like, oh my God, are you serious? So, to come from that place of like always having to be like, it's going to be okay, guys. It's going to be okay. Come with me, come with me, and because that's how we are in real life too. Like, it's our buddies that are just like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. Like, you've got to go clean your shit up right now.
That's
clean
right.
that mess up. Like, go face it and go do it. And so you got to, so thank you I'm glad you were heartbroken.
Yeah, no. Thank you for making me cry when I watched it, because no doubt I did cry when I watched it. I'm like, no. So I love, though, because you brought it up, and I think it was a very smart move by the writers and the showrunner to not pair you. Right? Like make you Mariska's partner. They're like, no, anything but. Let's make her anybody's partner but Olivia's, because that's not going to work. And so that was a very smart move to do that when you first came in, I think.
I agree. Yeah. And we, that relationship it developed over time, and nobody like forced our hands, to be like, okay, so you guys are going to be best friends, and then you're going to be, you're like single moms. Or blah, blah, blah. No, it was like, well, I had 2 babies on the show, and that changed me personally. That changed who Rollins was, and like all these things just kept opening up, where it's just like, oh, like Vincent and Rollins are great friends, and they've got, there's not a relationship like that on the show.
Yeah, most definitely. And with something like as impactful as this show, has been on longer than all of these other law procedurals and everything like that, with a show that mirrors society in such a real, authentic way, we've been talking a lot about mental health and how actors and professionals deal with that when taking on these type of situations. So how do you deal with mental health when, like I said, when you're on a project that mirrors society in such a real drastic way?
Well, I think following the lead of Mariska and trying to be proactive in terms of, where you dedicate your time or money. But more than anything else that I've done is just kind of, I'm proud that I was on a show that, even though it was a procedural, it seemed to help people, and no matter what the dark subject matter we were talking about was, I haven't had to go through that. And the people watching have, like a big part of our audience. I mean, it's astounding, the numbers when you break it down, how many people have had to experience assault or, so I know when people are watching our show, like a lot of people get not satisfaction, but just like a little relief, like when we catch the bad guy at the end of the show.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So just knowing that that's, and like when people come up to me on the street and they're like, thank you so much, for you and the show, and you guys have really helped me. That just means a lot. But otherwise, like you experience all the emotions at work, and you put yourself in those people's shoes, and, you do the interviews and you hear the stories, like as part of the script. And then, I leave that at work and I come home to 2 beautiful boys and a beautiful husband. So I've always been really good at leaving that at work, because I do like go full in, like in the moment, and I feel everything. So it's, everything is kind of left on the court in a way.
Well, one of the storylines that I really thought was like so interesting, and I'm sure helped just so many people, because I feel for like such the longest time there was such a stigma attached to it, and that's bipolarism, and the fact that your sister was bipolar and a drug addict, and that the what you had to deal with in that situation, and the stuff that she would put Amanda through, and then Amanda having to deal with trying to clean up that mess. I think that storyline was so important for so many people out there struggling with mental health issues, thinking they're alone and the stuff that they're going through, they must be all this. And so to see a character play that out on television and how it affects the family members and what the family members also have to deal with, and that it's more of a unit thing as opposed to an individual thing, and how mental health affects everybody. I thought that storyline was brilliant. Talk about a little about that, because Amanda's family kind of not so good, you know? The mom was abused, the dad's an alcoholic, the sister's a drug addict with mental health problems, and Amanda's not so, you know, unshady herself with what she's doing. You know?
Unshady.
You said the two children with two different daddies, and one of them was kind of hidden.
Yeah.
We didn't know who the dad was at some point, so there's a lot going on there. Talk about that dynamic and how you played the family aspect and had to deal with all that stuff, because that was incredible.
I mean, thank you for saying it was a brilliant storyline. I can only agree, you know, and all of those things came from just us asking questions like, you know, where is Rollins' dad? You know, how did she get here? Why is she curious about this? Why is she in New York? Why, you know, so out of questions came a really clear backstory, which I think is an organic way to build a character. So I think the reason why that storyline was successful and it didn't seem just put upon is because it kind of came out of, you know, you'd see Rollins' actions and be like, where did those come from? Why is she doing this?
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think your character was a prime example of pain recognizes pain, in the sense of someone who's been through pain can see people who are going through pain. One of my favorite episodes is the Book of Esther. That one was absolutely brilliant. And actually, Rebecca Kennedy is our forever guest, and she comes on. She's been on like 15 times.
I saw that.
Yeah, and she's absolutely amazing. But y'all's dynamic and chemistry back and forth in that episode that, again, was mirroring real life was an absolute pleasure to see. And I think that's what's so special about this show, with real life situations that are happening and you see them in the news every single day, and there's a new like aspect that comes out every single day. You represent it in the show to where like you can get some clarification and satisfaction and justice in a sense, to where in real life sometimes you don't really get that. So I think that's what's really special about it.
Well, and then
absolutely.
I was just saying, and then the twist on that, right? You work because so hard to save her, so hard to kind of thing, and then tragically you find out you killed her. Yeah. Like it's like, oh crap! So that little twist at the end was so heartbreaking, and just like I feel like it left everybody just like, oh, you know, when you do everything right and something tragic still happens, it's like, oh, how do you deal with that moving forward? You know?
Yeah, that was a really heartbreaking episode. I loved acting with her and everyone on that episode. It was, and I clearly remember that house, and you know, all of us gathered outside, and that was brutal. It was, and that's where the show succeeds. You know, like when, you know, of course the twists and that kind of thing, but when it's in a gray area too. I think when the show is the most successful, like but she only killed him because he was assaulting her.
Yeah.
I mean, and like you get that, and you're, you know, like that when you have all those conflicting feelings where you know what's right and wrong, but right and wrong gets messy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's when I think the show is really successful for us to kind of delve in and see what that feels like, you know?
Oh, for sure. And the relationship building, you know, you mentioned it with how Rollins and Olivia over the span of time and everything, but it's just with Amaro, with Finn, you know, with just the whole dynamic. I love you and Ice-T together. Just freaking fantastic. Every scene is just so good. Even at the end when he said, "I'm going to miss you, boo." And, just the kind of like little thing at the very end, right?
That was my mom's favorite.
Yeah, no, it was so endearing. It's him being him, right? He's like not going to get all emotional. It's just, "Oh, I'm going to miss you, boo." And kind of a thing. Right. But then Amaro and that whole kind of a situation, and you're like, "Oh, what's going on there? Is it going on? Is it not going on? Are they close? Are they not?" And then Carisi, of course. Like, you just like the progression through the characters was just phenomenal. I love
Danny,
them.
I have to tell you something behind the scenes. Like when we were before COVID, we all got together and we would do a table read through. So all the cast and the producers and the writers would all sit around and read the script before we started shooting it. And when we did that scene, when we read the scene between Rollins and Amaro, and you find out like he comes out in a towel or something.
Yeah.
Danny hadn't read the script before the table read, and his face just went, fire engine red. He was like, "Oh my God." So when like interviewers ask us like, "Well, what's next for Rollins and Carisi?" We're like, "We don't know."
Yeah.
It's like when we say we don't know, we really don't know. But go ahead.
No, that's fantastic though, because no doubt. I think everybody is kind of questioning, when things start to heat up between, Carisi and Amanda, it's like, where's the tragedy here? Is this going to be a good thing? Is this going to be a bad thing? Because it can't possibly end good. No, that's not going to happen. So
it does.
Exactly, to have the happy ending, to have that. And what a way to do. I thought the beginning of the episode was so good. No, I mean, the way they staged that, like, oh crap, what's everybody going to the courthouse for? What's the very surprise, like, here's why you're really here. So good. When you walk out in the dress and everybody's look on their face, it was so touching. It was so touching.
Norberto Barba, who actually, so I think I worked with him my very first experience on Law and Order was on Criminal Intent when he was directing.
Right.
In my very last episode. He directed that scene.
That's awesome.
And the rest of that episode, and did such a beautiful job. But yeah, that courthouse scene was it was so befitting to Rollins and Carisi, how they would do it. And, and I loved the bedroom scene, like how intimate that was.
Yes.
With the kids just jumping on the bed, and that was super sweet.
Oh, for sure. And the blended family, how Carisi just kind of came in and he's like, "Hey, we got this. We're a family now." And how the kids adapted to Carisi. It's like, "Oh, just come on in, jump up on the bed. Mom and Dad are here. It's Christmas. Come on." I love that. That's a full on turn happy ending for all of them, right? Because that's incredible. So that's a really good scene.
I don't want to alarm you guys, but there's an animal in between you. I don't want to alarm you.
This is Peanut.
Oh my god.
Peanut's a big Law and Order fan also.
Yeah.
Oh. Is it a boy or a girl?
It's a boy.
Oh. So does he like Franny?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Good beagle lab mix.
Franny, her and Ice-T's dogs, Spartacus and Maximus.
Yeah.
They used to hang out in the stage all the time. Like it was like kids, dogs, everything all the time, everywhere. But they would always gang up on her like 2-on-1. Of course they would. Ice-T dogs. No. But I think they came on Jimmy Fallon with him one time.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, she sees them on the TV and like goes ape shit. Like, she's like, "Those are my boys. They're on TV. They're my boys." Like she just would. Like her nose this far from the TV. Like she knew it was them.
She
didn't do that. Yeah, it was cute. And it was cute.
Okay, so bringing
and then by the last season, Franny, like she was 12.
Yeah.
That's not a spring chicken anymore in
No.
terms of dog years. And like they would do the old like Rollins and Franny running in the park thing. And Franny's like, "I got 2 takes. That's it. We're not doing And like they had me go upstairs and I was like, "Guys, I don't know if this is such a good idea." Like she's got an ACL problem in her knee. I was like, if you want us to move with any kind of alacrity, it's not going to happen because she's 80 years old. And
that's
she needs
right.
some time to get down these stairs. So we had to wait. We had to like stop shooting
Oh my
for
goodness.
30 minutes and re-block the scene so that Franny didn't have to do stairs.
Oh, that's adorable. Okay, so
Yeah.
I gotta, with stories like that, I and over the period of time that you were on the show, there has to be a story. There has to be a good one. What is the most embarrassing moment over your time on that show that you had happen that you thought at the time you were never gonna get over, but now you can sit back and laugh at it?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this is
I
the
don't know.
Barbara
I'll have
Walters moment. We have to like.
Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly. I think every cast member has ripped their pants at some point.
Oh no.
No doubt, right?
Yeah. You know, the holidays happen, you gain a few pounds. I don't know, man. That I'll think of it.
Okay.
If something comes up in my head, I will definitely let you know.
Oh, there you go.
No,
There you go.
never mind.
Do you
Never
have
mind.
a favorite scene partner? Did you? We don't want to call out anybody, but I mean, did you have somebody that you particularly loved being in scenes with more?
So the stuff with Ice-T.
Yeah.
Like I love when he was doing the the protection scenes with me. I would love doing that. That scene when Carisi decided to leave the unit.
Right.
And I was like, "You abandoned me!" I love doing that scene with him. And then, like the scenes with Rollins and Benson. I think there was a certain magic always when they would kind of just unleash us and let us go.
Yeah, most definitely. And did you have a lot of that freedom, like a lot of that collaboration?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Definitely.
always good.
We both, I mean, like, especially in that last episode, a lot of input to what beats we wanted. But I mean, they're so good there. David Graciano and Julia Martin, they were both they're so in tune with the characters and, they're so well defined that, I mean, it's certainly a talent to write them consistently. But that's also the beautiful thing of being on for a quarter of a century.
Oh yeah.
It's like people kind of figure what you're going to say and how you're going to act. So
Consistency. That's so good because in that scene, in that hotel room, the boxed wine and they're drunk and they're just getting it. And I loved every second of it. But then the consistency comes in when Amanda drops it and the instant, Olivia's like, somebody's leaving me again. I'm being rejected again. I'm losing somebody I care about again. And that coldness, that the stiff and change was just, that's a great example of the consistency of she's drunk, she's having a good time, they're having a moment, but then there's that trauma that everybody leaves her, everybody's abandoned her, she's had this stuff. So when Amanda drops it, it's that instant wall that goes up like, ooh, I'm being betrayed. That was so good. And then Amanda realizing, oops, I'm going to go get some ice. I mean, that was nice pun, by the way, there, too. Just the writing is so good.
I like that.
But yeah, it's one of those things where the writing is phenomenal. And when you have these characters and you have phenomenal writing like that, and then you have people like yourself that are phenomenal talent that can bring those words to life in a way that people can connect to. I think that's why it's been on the air as long as it's been on the air, and it's able to do what it's been able to do because you have that. Not every show gets that, right? Not every show is able to do that. And what you guys have been able to do with these characters and your performances, and there's a reason you said, oh, I thought I was going to come in, maybe get 1 or 2 seasons kind of a thing or whatever, but there's a reason that you were there that long. It's because of the ability to do what you do and to connect with the audience and to make people feel for that character, and that's all you. You can have brilliant words, but if you don't have that ability to take those words to life and make that connection, doesn't work. So that's a credit to you and the rest of the cast to be able to pull off what you guys pull off every week.
Yeah, and I think everybody there really enjoyed their job. Like we all loved coming to work. And to go back to like scene partners and that kind of thing, like Danny Pino, great scene partner.
Yeah.
And Dan Florek, like when I first got there, like to have him, like,
oh my gosh,
I didn't have to. I mean, it was just such an undercurrent of love. Like I absolutely adore him, and I think he feels the same way about me. And it was just an instant instant connection, and like to have those connections like so strong, like you get to play, because once you have the base there, I think everybody, like the audience, responds to that. They're like, oh, these people really love and respect each other, like let's throw them in the tumble cycle, and see what happens.
Most definitely. Well, it is the season, so I always have to wonder and ask, what is your favorite holiday movie that you like watching every year? Because, we have our set, couple, and I'm always so curious about everybody else's.
Well, in the Giddish household, when I was coming up, we always had to watch Bad Santa.
Oh, yeah.
With Billy Bob Thornton.
Oh, yeah.
So that's where I'm from. That makes us feel warm and fuzzy.
For sure.
But now my son watched with my dad like a year or so ago, Christmas Vacation.
Oh, nice.
And just watching my son look at his grandfather and like my dad just giggling, and like watching my son giggle at his grandfather watching the movie, that was really special. So
Aww.
Now they're texting each other like, "Hey, I'm watching Christmas Vacation tonight."
I love that.
That would be it.
That's so cool.
That family dynamic.
How about yours? What's yours?
Ooh, yeah.
Well, mine for sure, Home Alone 2. I love both Home Alones, but I love New York City. And I love the house more in Home Alone 2. So that one's definitely a staple.
Yeah, for sure.
I love Home Alone.
I'm old school because I'm old. So It's a Wonderful Life, the original, not the remake. I'm all in on the original, and I like it in black and white. But then I'm also, my daughter is a huge fan, and therefore I became a huge fan of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the Jim Carrey version. So that's one that we watch all the time. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, you watch It's a Wonderful Life with me, and I'll watch Grinch with you, and then we just kind of, and now we both love both of them. So it's very weird. I love how you talk about the family and the kind of thing, because this industry can be kind of tough with the working hours and all that kind of stuff. I know sometimes there are stretches where I'm away from my daughter, soon to be his wife, and so there are stretches.
Wait.
Yeah.
Oh.
This is going to be my father-in-law. Yes,
that's awesome.
It's a special dynamic. Yeah, we have a film and television production company that we got started, and this kind of led us into the podcast space, and we've been doing it ever since. But yeah, basically, my father-in-law is my best friend, so it's a good dynamic.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Really, really great.
Worked out pretty well, we think. I can trust this guy with my kid. I mean, it's fantastic. I know his future. I know how things are going. It's pretty good.
That's big.
I love, though, how you bring up the family and talk, and there's clearly a great family dynamic there, because support systems and the people around you are so important in this industry, because it can be tough at times and everything. Talk just a tad about what it's like to be a working mom in this industry, because that's not always an easy thing to do, right?
No. You're worried all the time.
Yeah.
You're just worried all the time.
Yeah.
And then you find wonderful, beautiful people that love your children and that are teaching them things that maybe you couldn't teach them. So you're like, okay, all right, that's good. That's all right.
I love that. I love that. Sometimes you just got to put it out to the world and say, okay, take care of this. It's going to all be okay. Right. Like,
yeah.
And that brings
sorry to interrupt you.
No.
I had a really, my mom was a working mom. She was an administrator for the high school, ended up being principal, which is very intensive in terms of time.
Yeah.
You have to be at all the basketball games and all the football games and all the plays and all the, so I had a really good example. And, whenever I talk to my mom about it, she's like, it's definitely quality over quantity.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, in everything in life. That's a great motto to have throughout life. It's all about quality, not quantity. It's take what you get and make the best of it, of whatever you do. And that kind of brings it full circle, right? Like back when you were saying that you were putting it out there in Indiana, and you don't know, I'm not getting paid, and I don't know what's happening here, but at some point, this is all going to come back, and it's all going to be good. And I feel like that's so important for anybody out there trying to chase the dream, no matter what the dream is, whether it's in this industry or whatever other industry or having a family or whatever. It's at some point you just got to put it out there, take the risk, go for it, because in the end, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and it's all going to be okay. And you got to be able to take that risk, right?
Yeah, you got to put a foot forward towards whatever you want.
Exactly.
God doesn't help cowards.
Exactly.
Ooh, that's a t-shirt.
I know. I like that. I like that. Well, listen, thank you so much for taking time out of your morning and come getting a little crazy with us. We really appreciate it. This has been an absolute blast. You're welcome back anytime.
Oh, yeah.
But it's all about social media. Where can all the followers follow you?
At Kelli Giddish.
Yeah.
Those places.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put it out there. We'll put it out there.
Instagram and
Instagram.
Twitter, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to ask before we let you go, though. One, is Amanda ever going to come back? They kind of left that open. I was so glad it was the happy ending and we didn't have a tragic ending because hopefully we could see you again, right? And then two, what does Kelli have coming up? What's post Law and Order?
Kelli has Christmas and the holidays and taking it easy. I'm thrilled to be doing exactly what I'm doing, which is, taking my boys to school this morning and hopefully, it's just being home, and it's such a cozy time, to enjoy, and I'm the happy as a bug in a rug.
Love that answer because you've certainly earned some time off and to be able to have that family time. So just thank you again, like Logan said, so much. This has been an absolute pleasure. Lifelong fan. So this is a huge deal for me. Thank you so much.
Oh, good.
And best of luck in the future for whatever you do and whatever the plans have for you. I think you're just gonna excel in anything that you do. So best of luck, best wishes, and take care. And Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Have a
All
good
right,
one.
thank you guys.
No problem.
Peanut saying goodbye. Oh, is it over?
Bye, Peanut. So cute.
Have a good one.
Bye,
Take
guys.
care.
All right.
Man, that was absolutely amazing.
Oh, yeah. And just, we've heard from people that have worked with her about how nice she is and what a great person she is. But right there, proof positive. She's just a person who gets life and takes everything and is thankful for everything and just makes the best. And, just what a wonderful person.
Yeah, seriously. Thank you again, Miss Kelli Giddish, for coming on the show.